Welcome back to another week of the Unstoppable Force podcast. I'm Guy.
And I'm Rob.
And this week we're going to bring you some lovely melodic voices talking about contact lenses.
Yeah, well, not just any contact lenses.
AR contact lenses, to be more specific.
Yes. There's been a recent development in prototype AR contact lenses by a company called Mojo Vision.
And it's I think you said it was it actually had like some Google employees and Amazon and
Right, some veterans from like Google, Amazon, Microsoft.
Mm-hmm. I checked their about page and I did not recognize anybody, but
I mean,
I'm sure there's some decent people behind
maybe
this.
Maybe they founded it or part of it. Maybe not.
There's also probably like some people they're not going to put on the website.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this is like a company started by some big employees and some previous like executives of like these other major companies. But this is like the first contact lens that looks somewhat commercially viable so far.
Yeah, and they have like workable prototypes. Like they're not fully like a small. I think they had some very small like examples of their actual screens because it's like super high density, super high pixel density, so that they can have any sort of it's not projection. It's just going to be like a screen, and they can show like messages and details. Like they have some examples where like they're primarily going into the medical market with to help with like blindness and low low visibility, I guess. If you're like partially blind, to help with that, so that, for example, if you're looking around, you can't see shapes or full shades, it can fully detail an outline, like the desk you're sitting at or anybody around you. There's one of the articles I was reading, they put them in into the room, and it was like pitch black, and they had a prototype that was lens on a stick, and it had an image processor, like image sensor on there, and it was able to see all the outlines of stop signs and all these other everything in there.
It's almost like night vision or something, just by like taking all the information in a picture and then like giving you some sort of like image directly onto your eye.
Yeah,
and it's just like, hey, you can't see anything? Well, we're gonna put it right in front of your eye.
Oh yeah, dude. Like that's the most hype thing that I want to come from AR lenses. Like everything else is really cool, but it kind of seems gimmicky when it's like messages or you can read a prompt. Like instead of a prompter, now you have that. It's like cool, you don't have to look down at notes when you're like presenting, or if you want to walk on the street, you have directions, or biking. But honestly, if I could see in the dark without having like a whole night vision set on, that'd be crazy. Like I just buy it just for that.
I mean, I don't know to what extent, because they say night vision, but what does that really mean? You know, am I seeing images with color or like some level of like what is it, just green, like in a maybe like a night vision goggles, or like is it something like it creates a shape around it just to tell you it's there, and then like puts like maybe the words on it or something that like creates some image that replaces it but is still in its location?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, even if it is sense like black and white or single color or green, like night vision goggles, that's like good enough. I don't know I think there's some sort of outline from what I read, but that's even better if you can actually like determine a person or like actual objects.
It'll be like a video game where you like go up to something to interact
Dude, it's like
and
VATS.
it gets like a little light.
Yeah, dude, it's gonna be VATS. You'll be able to do that.
Like you'll be able to like you'll walk up to a door, it says like E to open.
Oh my god. Or like at a funeral it says F for respect.
Oh my god. Yes. Confirmed at my funeral, everyone's got to wear AR contact lenses and pay F for respect. This is it seems like new, but we have been trying to figure out contact lenses as displays.
Right. So ever since the kind of AR technology,
right,
we've taken it and it's like, oh, we have all these goggles and whatever, Google goggles, and so it's like there, but you know, in my opinion, obvious next step is contact lenses. That is just so you don't have to like have this whole bulky thing. It kind of keeps your look the same.
I remember like years ago, just like looking stuff like cool future tech and whatnot up on the internet, and you end up in like weird different places. And I definitely remember coming across an article on like contacts lenses, and it didn't mention any companies or anything like that, but like purely just the concept of the lenses and like this idea of having a smartphone on your eyes. And they've been, I think like the first time that they've actually successfully created this was like in 2008. But since then, you know, Google had its what was it called again? Like Verily?
Yeah, Verily.
Verily, something like that.
That was like the Alphabet subsidiary, right? That was doing the Google.
It was Google Glass, and like they were probably going to try to move into contact lenses. And there's like the guy who apparently started this in like 2008 was on that team at Google X Labs or whatever it's called. But then Samsung tried to do their own at one point, and they have like a patent for that. And I think it was like another company. But so far, pretty much nobody has come out with anything that looks legit. This is like the first legitimate, you know, hey, we're actually going to try to get this out. Like we're hitting FDA approval. We have prototypes. I'm just wondering, you know, how long are we really going to have to wait for this thing?
Yeah, well, so the route that they're taking is to go in the medical area first, and then obviously take it into consumer,
right,
and such.
And that's smart, probably.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
because you're not going to sell this to consumers as of now, but if you can just solve the low light or low vision problem,
vision impaired, yeah,
that alone is a good enough way to sell it in the medical world.
Right. And all the applications work when you move into using it for the consumer. Yeah. You'll have the image sensors, so you're going to be able to look at a street and do all this other stuff. Where if you kind of went in, I think like the basic level without like any sort of image sensor, you would just be able to put words and notification. It'd be like a smartwatch on your eye where you can put like text messages or emails. You can navigate like that. And you can have like speech, like text, so you can like instead of having a prompter, and then you can read that out.
That's like the business applications.
Yeah, basically.
Like next time we see Zuckerberg out on that stage, you know he's gonna be wearing these his contact lenses. Yeah. This way he doesn't forget any of his lines. Nothing. Oh no, you know who needs this? Elon.
Yeah.
Elon, he's a great guy. I love a lot of what he does. Horrible public speaker for some reason.
Yeah.
These would be great. A great addition to his his speeches, his presentations.
Like I think we're pretty far away though from even getting it to the like just for the visually impaired, especially because I guess alongside going medically, they're gonna develop the technology to get it to consumer. So, demo that like a journalist that in one of these articles, they have like the HTC. They put one of the Vives on and has the eye tracking. So it had demoed that when you're looking straight, there's no text or anything in your way obstructing you. But if you look to the left or the right off screen, if you look to the side, it'll come up with a menu of different apps. So you'll have like your text, your calendar, and then the speech where you can pull up. Like you hold it there, there's an arrow, and it kind of shows that you're selecting it. And then once it pops up, then you can just use I guess it would be an app. You can consider an app. But that has to come to the actual lens. Like they're demoing this in VR, right, showing you how it's going to look. They're
demoing it in VR. The thing in the low light vision is like some what is it again? It was like a prototype
on a stick. Prototype on a stick, which leads me to believe that they don't want a bunch of contact lenses to give to people, honestly. So, but I also don't know how big it is. We got no scale.
What if
any sort of processing could be happening on there that we don't know?
Are we even sure that they've like created the actual fully functional contact lens? Like, is this still a couple years out? Because there's definitely no timeline that they've put on here. They mentioned the FDA and the regulations and saying that they're going through those, but what does that entail? What part, like what level of the process are they at?
They definitely, well, they have a prototype actual contact lens that has embedded display with the screen, and it's described as the size of a dot from an ink pen. So it's the smallest, densest display ever made, is what they claim. So they have an actual lens, so they can do the screen part with the lens. It's all about getting the actual showing up of the apps and all the processing, which they actually have apparently a device like on the wrist that is powering and you doing most of the computing for the lens. And they're talking about taking that into more of a smartphone connection, which would make a lot more sense if you're connecting it right into doing, you don't have to do a lot of processes. It's just a notification, like a Bluetooth notification for your text, for example, and it pops up, and there's a very limited, like, you just make it very shallow. It's just like, okay, show the text in this like little color bubble. Okay, so what? So it's not hosting everything. It's just showing you like a little Bluetooth.
Yeah, I think like those things are gonna be rather straightforward. I'm just skeptical. You know, I mean, everything sounds cool in the articles, but so did Samsung's Neon, right? Until we actually looked at it.
Yeah.
And it's easy to sell to journalists. Journalists are a bit naive. They like it when the scientist tells them how awesome the thing that they made is, so that they can go back to the readers and, you know, in worst case scenario, you know, oh, they lied to me, not to you guys. I didn't lie to you guys. They sold me this great story. And there's another part, you know, this isn't Google, this isn't Samsung, this isn't one of these big, huge companies who has already shown that they've been working on those things and have potentially abandoned it entirely, which is surprising if I guess like Mojo in this case found a use for it. Maybe, you know, they were thinking of it more as a consumer product, and Mojo was like, hey, what if we can solve blindness, like certain forms of blindness with this device, and then from there realize that they can take this technology and become a consumer product. I'm not sure. I do find it interesting.
Yeah, well, so I don't know, I thought it kind of funny. The difference between like the Neon stuff and this team is that they've been working at this for like 5 years.
That's true.
They have like the actual stuff to show.
Not 4 months.
They have the gesture, like eye gesture sensing. They have that as a piece technology. You have the night vision piece of sensor, the image sensor and processing separately, and you have the lens with the high density display. You got to pull those together. Like maybe that's not really soon, but you definitely have this, and they're really small. I don't know how small. You know, we got no real image. I really would like to see it, but we know that the different parts of a very like awesome potential product
absolutely
is there.
I mean, on to just even the concept alone. I mean, even if this company, let's say, you know, they end up busting, like they're not able to get this thing to the point of manufacturing. You know, that's often one of the biggest hurdles about producing a especially a consumer good, or even if it's not, just like in this case it's for the medical industry, actually mass producing something that has never been made before requires creating a factory from the ground up with a completely unique process to mass produce it. That involves like probably dozens and dozens of engineers of different types, and, you know, all of this planning and figuring out how to actually get this thing to mass production. Like, we don't know how far they're going to get and what hurdles they still have to face, because they still have to face FDA, they still have to face the manufacturing, they actually have to face human trials and the medical industry. Like, how will these work? How long will they last? How prone to damage will they be? You know, how easy is it for some consumer to break it, so on and so forth. But even if it gets past all of that, or even if it doesn't, and another company picks up where it left off and creates like a true, like, actual AR contact lens for consumers, not even just the medical world or people with like low vision, what would that look like? You know, how would that affect our everyday lives? Because I feel like it would completely change the rules. Maybe not initially, just because there won't be as many apps, and it'll be like an Apple Watch or something, where it's like, like you said, it shows you the notifications, and it like gives you like, oh, maybe I can like look this up using Siri, and then Siri will send a bubble of information to my like eye contacts.
I kind of like it could gain, like, gives us better like situational awareness. just in general, where like everybody's in their phones, they're trying to find out where to go, they can't see anything around them. It'll bring us into more of the real world. It's kind of funny now. It's like
Yeah.
record the concert that you're at with the lenses that you're wearing instead of with your phone that's in front of your face. Now you're actually experiencing it, but now you can maybe like be recording it, and it'll bring people, more into the real world in a sense. And like if you have to, even when somebody asks you the time, like there's a whole like this is like some like I don't know if it's paranoia stuff, but like it's like, oh no, some stranger asks you the time, like you never. It's like, is that just like they're trying to know like watch or phone you have, and if they try to jack you, now it's just like on your eye. They're really gonna like take your eye, so like that stuff's not gonna happen.
They probably would try. If these were like $5,000 contact lenses, I could just imagine him just like punching you out.
But if you don't know, right? Yeah, I mean they'll beat you up enough for that. Sure.
I mean, I feel like it's gonna be hard to like make the contacts totally unnoticeable because they're gonna be over your eye. You're gonna have to get like different colors because I'm sure it's gonna probably cover up some of the what is the colored area of your eye called?
Not the iris.
Maybe I think the iris. I think it is actually iris. I'm not sure.
Is that the black part?
Oh no, the like brown or blue or
no. That's what I'm asking. I don't know.
Whatever. Somebody out there will know. But yeah, I'm sure it would in some way obscure that part. So that'd be interesting if they like have to create different colored ones, and then it's like, would everybody's colors eyes just be like gone? No one can see each other's eyes, unless it would be like completely translucent.
No, I don't think it'd be translucent. You still see like movement because it'll just cover like contact lens cover. So you'll like the whites of your eyes are still there. So you just like look around, they'll know. It's like you're looking at somebody's eyes, then if they're looking at you.
Well, I'm not saying if they're looking at you. I'm saying that if I have like really, really beautiful green eyes, and I put these things on and they only come in blue and brown of one color, well, now all of a sudden I have blue or brown of one color. And then like if 10,000 people buy with the blue, all 10,000 people have the identical eyes.
It also gets rid of like using eyes to get into locks.
Right.
If you want to use that, like that, this will obstruct that. It's kind of something I didn't actually think about.
So there'll be some interesting like hurdles in that sense. I think software wise, creating apps for this thing as like a brand new piece of technology might be difficult to get a lot of developers on board.
I think they'll want to be there. Like it depends. Like the way I see it is, if Google has the development into, let's say, you want to have augmented maps like on the street.
Yeah.
Google like wants to be there so that you use their app when you're trying to find the street, so that like you sign in with the Google account, use their stuff, they track where you're going, the stores you go to, all this different stuff. They want to be there. And if it's connected to your phone, they'll want to be the ones that send it from the phone to the lens.
Well, I think like the biggest problem is that, when it comes to developers go where the audience is. That's the key. So this thing comes out and it's like one of those self-perpetuating problems. I don't have any consumers to buy this expensive product that doesn't do much right now. Like an Apple Watch didn't really do much at the beginning. It's not just a lot more now, but if you don't have the users, just like these watches, a lot of them fail. The only one who's like really had major success is Fitbit and Apple. The rest of them have run into the same problem: lack of developers. And in this, in particular case, I feel like the margin for entry is going to be way higher. And then even then, there's going to be people who just don't actually want to wear contact lenses. Like I used to wear contact lenses and I stopped because they hurt my eyes, and I had like a really frustrating experience one time with them where I could not get one of them to not be painful in my eye for like over an hour of trying to get it to work. And I ended up having to spend the rest of the day without contacts in. Couldn't see much. I had a coworker who tried contact lenses at one point and stopped using them. You also run into the problems of like what happens if you keep them on all night. Are these as high quality as like regular contact lenses, or are we going to find out that because there's no clinical studies really done on humans that like a year into using them or like a couple months into them being out that they actually irritate the eyes after 3-4 months of use every single day constantly.
Right. Well, the thing is, the primary application, especially with this company, is medical. So we're going to get
Right.
those trials, and we're going to get the tests. We're going to get the release in a different market that they're going to be using them. Like Mojo's teamed up with something for the blind and visually impaired, like whatever organization, so that they're working with them, and we'll see that. So we're gonna get that before it comes to consumer, before it gets to the point where companies are like, I don't know if I'm gonna put developers on this. We'll know that if it's actually viable for people to use. And yeah, you get people that aren't gonna want
the exact problem I
lenses.
propose though, is that in order, so it's like it's this, like I said, it's perpetuating lack of content,
no, it's
right?
not though.
So a company has to put up all this capital to create a product good enough for developers to actually make stuff on.
Okay.
But in order to get the developers, you need to get the consumers, and you can't get the consumers with the developers, but then you also have to upfront all this capital. That's what I'm saying. It's just a high-risk area, which is probably why Google and Samsung have abandoned it for the most part.
Sure. But my point is, when you get to help the visually impaired,
yeah,
and you get the
no, I agree with all those things.
No, yeah, but my point is that there's a selling point there that it's way more viable than like just a watch. That is like, okay, like you're selling this watch, and now it's just a piece of tech that needs, like, it can't survive without development of other apps, because otherwise it's just a watch now with like a heart rate sensor. But with the lenses, there's more to it.
My point was more that it's niche. So there's going to be certain groups that are going to benefit significantly more from it. One being people who are visually impaired. Another one being, I guess, people who really, really are into like night vision goggles or collectors or something, like people who just want it because they have the money and it's like a cool high life luxury consumer item. There's going to be the consumer who might be able to afford it and wears contact lens already or something, but I think that between the lack of software outside of those few key pieces of software that are great for the medical instances, it's gonna be more difficult. And then it's not like a smartphone where everybody can use a smartphone. There's gonna be a large percentage of people who just absolutely hate contact lenses and have no interest in wearing them. I think that at that point, though, people who aren't using the contact lenses are probably just going to use glasses, like rimmed glasses.
It's never going to have AR glasses, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the two will probably coincide, but then again, it's like one company makes the glasses, one company makes the contacts. The software and operating systems on both of those that like a developer would have to develop for are different, and then now it's just, it seems like it gets complicated when there's no standardization, and this is like brand new text coming. Not to say that it's a bad thing. Like everything has to go through its like what's it called? It's growing period where it just starts off as being like, like you said, the smartwatches. What's another great use of those? Oh, right, monitoring, blood sugar levels, heart rate, medical information. That's where all these devices like kind of started. They all start in the medical field on like one specific function that they're trying to solve an issue. So this is like the low vision, and from there they're like, hey, we can make a consumer product out of this, but I still think we're looking like 5 to 10 years down the line before this is like competing with your smartphone.
I think initial
maybe even longer.
I don't think it can compete with the not initially in the first like few life cycles, like iterations. It'll be like a Bluetooth connection. It'll take the messages and stuff from your phone. Processing will be on there for the most part, and then
maybe
sending.
Replacing your smartphone is too large of a gesture, because your smartphone just does too much nowadays, and they're only going to start doing more and more and more. So it's going to become harder to replace something that's so integral in your life and has such high computing power.
We'll just get to. If we get to a point where it's small, like tech is so small enough to do it, and they grab the developers that like and put Android on your eye, and then there was like some cool like Google integration of like Android into AR on your eyeball. Like that's the thing though. I think that when this actually becomes like viable, it's going to be one of these big companies partnering with either a small company, or it's going to be
one of them that's creating it themselves off the back of the technology being proven in this sector. It seems to me though, like the main problem is that they all abandoned it. They I guess we're only looking at it from like a consumer perspective and didn't think like, hey, how can we solve a medical issue with this? But that's why, I mean, I think what Mojo is doing is very smart, going for medical, because it is like the best way to eventually possibly get to consumers. But sometimes the person who comes in first isn't the one who wins.
Well, so maybe I mean, win, it could be relative. Like, they could be just getting the medical market, and then they opened up the market for
their website definitely does not look like they're going for the medical market.
No. Oh, well, I mean, they have parts of it.
A little bit, yeah. But they built a site to be like very modern. They have an end goal,
yes.
Yeah.
But to say that, like, I don't know about them, but like personally, if I was doing this, just to not be satisfied with like owning all of the, like, helping the visually impaired and like probably making enough money off of that. It's like whatever. But I also think, I don't know, it's just like a little bit on, I think that like falling asleep with these will not be a problem. It'll tell you if you have these on, like freaking blinking on your face, blinking your eyes. How you gonna fall asleep with the blinking?
Okay, I think it's a very valid argument to say like that they'll alert you if you keep your eyelids closed after like a certain period of time or something. It'll be like, alert, you are falling asleep with our contact lens.
Yeah, something more subtle, but
spring up from your bed.
It's just a dream. Fucking Matrix is happening. Like, they're taking over the robots.
Just imagine you like decking your like lamp on your end table.
Yeah, the Transformers are coming. Yeah. Definitely. Look, I just think that, I mean, there's definitely a problem with, in the future getting developers to be able to put apps and support with this. Just the potential, like, that they're showing with this, and if somebody comes in and undercuts them, like, as a consumer, I don't care about that. That's a problem for them.
That's
okay?
True.
And it will just make the contact lenses better, and I'm looking forward to that.
The more I think about it, the more I know for a fact that Pokemon Go is going to be in like the launch list.
Oh my god, yes. Dude, Nintendo is the support.
Like, they're going to be like, we need to be the first one out the gate on this one.
Dude, Harry Potter. Dude, you can like duel and shit now. Like Harry Potter, you can have like wand and like send, oh my god, if you could send like spells and stuff and just have a whole game. Like, dude, like also like gaming is a whole separate thing that's not even going to be thought of for this, even though you can do stuff like that. Like, it's gonna be kind of dumb games, but like you can just do like, how you can have a basketball hoop on the back of your door. You can have that in AR now. You can just shoot a hoop, sitting, and keep doing that.
It's really cool, and I like thinking about like all the different like fun things you can do. But like I was thinking like sword fighting, but then I'm like, you have to tell the other person, and you guys have to like coordinate stopping your hands in the right location, and like. It's weird to not have any like physical sensation to go along with the visual one.
Yeah.
In a lot of cases.
True.
I feel like it'd be really
cool. Same thing with VR.
Yeah. But at least like you have the things on your hand and like you're hitting a button, so there's something tactile.
It still doesn't stop, and it still doesn't, get hit. There's no like wind or movement left or right G-forces if you're driving.
That's true. I mean, it's basically like gonna be really cool VR in real life. Yeah. Like, I'm just imagining going out into a field and like playing Space Invaders and like using my like fingers and my handguns and just being like, just
for like safety's sake and like manufacturing, like assembly sake with humans. I know obviously we're moving to automation, but I'm just saying like intricate stuff and instructions can be like assembly instructions and such can be on and can help you with like sort of like intricate assembly with the hands if you're like using these lenses. Just there's a lot more applications on like business side and manufacturing. There's like a lot of
good ideas that are like that can ready. It's like when like the iPhone or smartphones in general came out, it's like there became this software wild west of like, who's going to be the first one to make the to-do app? Who's going to be the first one to, make these games or this utility or whatever? Like, if it didn't exist, you can make it. And now, every app you can possibly think of is on the market. And there's like 50 of them, or 100 of them, 500 of them. Every idea that could have scammed somebody's like basically been done. Like, remember those like mirror apps?
Oh yeah.
Like, they'd have like a 1 star, and yet hundreds of thousands of people would buy it. And it's like, read the reviews, people.
Yeah.
It's just your screen.
Yeah.
That's it.
Mm.
But yeah, I think it's gonna like reset that in a way, right? It's like Wild West all over again. Hey, you think of this cool thing you can do in AR? Make it.
And yeah, just like something simple like dictionary. Like if you're reading something, you don't know the word, you can just look at it and it'll like you like stare at a word, and after like a few seconds, it just pops up with the definition next to it, or like I don't know, for programming, if you need like whatever methods and you're trying to figure out like whatever, you can just get definitions off like your fate, off of just looking and like figuring stuff out, and like the different things you can do, or like where it's called, I don't know, just.
I think we actually have some technology as well that we're prototyping that allows somebody to type using their brain. So imagine if you combine these two things together and you can type with your brain and then use the rest of it with your eyes. You could like give Siri commands and stuff like without even talking, which would be kind of fucking awesome. You just send text by like thinking of what to say. Yeah. You can write a novel just by looking at a Word doc and just thinking like it's in your eyes, and it's like it'd be really fucking cool. I mean, I guess you could do some of those things without the glasses or the contacts, but the combination of the two, I feel like, opens up the doors to so many more cool things, like being able to take notes in the gog or contacts. So like you could like have like a little note app or something, and instead of having to like type it or like use your eyes, you can just like fill it in with notes.
Yeah, or like assistance, so it's like remind me whatever, then like pops up.
Yeah, it'd be so cool to like get personal assistants involved in this and have like a the future is very cool. And I think this, I mean, like I said, I think to the extent that we're talking about it, at least on a consumer level, is like probably a good 5-10 years.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I would say at least 5 years to get it, like for me to get it, be able to get it in my hands before, and this is before like full like sort of integration.
I mean, we'll kind of see its strength when it hits the medical industry, which is, it's going to take a couple years before it may actually start being applied there, and then a couple more years after that before it's going to start hitting consumers. Or at least that's what like the articles that we read, I guess, was estimating. But I mean, I'm still skeptical. I'm really interested to see where they take it, but
I wonder if they like gonna integrate actual contact lenses into this, like for if you need glasses, like they need the contact lens and glasses, or they're gonna have like prescriptions that you can have this in.
I'm not sure.
I feel like that'd be very difficult.
That's like the other hurdle with I think that's part of what Google Glass ran into and why they abandoned ship on that one too.
Yeah.
Is I remember when that came out, I was like, well, what about me? I've got normal glasses.
Yeah.
Like, are you gonna make me like contact or not contact, but like prescription Google Glass? Because I'm down. I'm absolutely down, but I feel like that's gonna be tough.
Right. And like all the different prescriptions and for contact lenses, it's just gonna. I think it's kind of. They'll have to when they get there, basically. And if they get manufacturing down, then yeah, sure, they can make it.
That's like part of the annoying thing about like high tech, like new cutting edge technology, is that typically you can't really make the most out of it without being like $1 billion company who can like partner with a glasses company or like purchase an entire glasses company to like make your shit for you. I mean, it just seems like the overhead to even like start some of these like big tech ideas, it just comes like larger and larger and larger, and it requires like millions of dollars in investors, and stuff like that. But it's definitely cool, and it's definitely one of I think the biggest life changing technologies that we're gonna see over the next like 20 years.
I agree. Yeah.
Let us know what you guys think about cool contact lenses in the
Yeah.
future.
Are you willing to suffer through contact lenses for night vision?
I would try them. I don't think I would use them every day. I don't know.
Every
Maybe
night.
maybe we'll come around to it.
I'm hyped for that.
But definitely for like night vision, I'll check that out.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, well, thank you guys for listening. We'll see you next week.
Bye. As always, thank you for listening and following.
Check us out every Thursday on YouTube, Spotify, Apple and Google Podcasts, anywhere podcasts are available.
You can find us on Instagram at Unstoppable Force Podcast and Twitter at UForcePod for news and updates.
We'll see you guys next week.
And
until then, stay unstoppable.